pushed the knife into me in some areas such as my hand, ear, and head. He also sawed much of my hair off with this dull knife. After some time, the knife broke off of the handle and continued to threaten me with the blade. I believed I was going to die. He has beaten me many times before, but never this badly. He told me he was going to rape me, but was disappointed in himself. After another hit or two, he left me on the floor, bleeding and shaking, holding my side from the pain of my rib. Assuming he was finding a sharper, more stable knife to end my life, I ran out my back door. Naked and afraid he would catch me, I kept running through the neighborhood, knocking on doors.
And that is very difficult to listen to. You know, the Ultimate Fighter, MMA fighter John Keppenhaver, a.k.a. War Machine, is on the ultimate run as we speak. But it's just a matter of time before he's captured. And it's not the first time that the War Machine has had his problems, is it, Yasmin?
No, so many priors. 2009, felony domestic violence with strangulation. Misdemeanor domestic violence in 2011. Sued for allegedly beating someone up at a club. And in 2009, he tweeted, "When I'm ready to die, I will kill many, and I will then kill myself, and I will tape it. It will be rad."
That in and of itself could be a crime. So let me go right out. The Dream Team, of course, is here. Wendy Patrick back with us. Wendy, talk to us about this from a prosecutor's perspective. Once he's ultimately caught, which we're confident he will, what does he face, and how effective will the prosecution be?
Right. Well, Joey, when you hear the word War Machine, you think we're talking about a contestant in one of those battling robot shows in the 1980s. But when you realize we're talking about a man that fights for a living, you don't want to hear that term in connection with domestic violence. Domestic violence is the invisible epidemic, and what he'll be charged with will determine what, he faces as a result of whether or not he's convicted. But what we're going to have to determine, what investigators are going to be looking at, is what was the amount of the damage, what happened, what the investigation has got to be ongoing, and that's going to determine ultimately what he gets charged with once he's apprehended.
You better believe it, Wendy. And speaking about the investigation, Mike, you know they're investigating as we speak. What he did to her, I mean, that's a travesty. What are investigators doing right now at that home and with her in order to get the evidence they need to bring it to people like Wendy so there could be an effective prosecution?
Well, you heard with Dog Shed that War Chump has a probation violation, and now if he goes from Nevada to California, that's also U.S. Marshals will be on his tail, the Fugitive Task Force for unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. So I have a feeling it's going to not a matter of if, but a matter of when, and it's going to be soon.
And thank goodness for that. And Yasmin, you spoke to the issue on Twitter,
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in 2009, he talked about killing people. So what does that mean? If they do get this guy busted, if they do find this guy, are they going to be able to also prosecute him on the things he was saying online?
I mean, look, potentially, but I think Wendy would agree with this. That's going to be the least of his problems. He's got a lot to answer to. Now, I think something like that would go to aggravation and enhance a potential prosecution or a sentence, but it doesn't look good when you say things like that.
Makes him sound like he's a danger to himself and others, which he definitely is.
Right.
And we've seen evidence before in past history, like UCSB student, where someone tweets something online and they actually end up doing what they talk about online.
And that's the problem, Wendy. I mean, a guy like this, you really have to monitor and monitor closely because he represents a danger.
You bet. In so many different ways, Joey. You hit it right on the money. We need to figure out what he did, when he did it, and whether he can be prosecuted for it. Right on.
Absolutely. All right, coming up, the grisly murders of the elderly couple sent shivers through a Georgia Lake community back in May. We'll tell you why investigators are looking into Florida connections now. And we have more of the stories that you are on the case about on our Facebook page. Go to facebook.com/HLN on the case. Check out the latest on Janice Wright and all the other stories that we're following.